At every service interval for a Harley-Davidson, it's important to check the battery. You want to make sure those terminals are tight. If they get loose, you can have all kinds of electrical issues, including starting issues, which we're seeing on the 23 CVOs. The service manual says check the battery, terminal torque, and clean the connections annually. Lubricate the terminals with electrical contact lubricant. The first step to getting to the battery is removing the seat, but you also want to remove the main fuse. You do not want any power connected to the bike when playing with the battery. Also make sure to remove a tender. If you have your battery charging, pull that tender so there's no charge present. From there, we got to remove the top caddy. So you'll see this caddy right underneath the seat. You're going to remove the heated gear connectors, the two P&A connectors, and then you have to disconnect the rear connector that goes to the rear lights on the motorcycle. From there, you'll be able to remove this tray here that's highlighted in orange. Next, you got to remove the BCM itself. The BCM has 3 connections and a couple tabs holding the tray in place. You actually don't need to disconnect the BCM. We can leave those cables connected and we'll just flip it over and hang it over the side. Underneath there, we're going to find a tray that holds the BCM. And we'll simply remove the screw number 1 and then pull this tray out, and that will expose the battery underneath. So we'll start by removing the seat and the saddlebag and the left cover. Remember, the seat screws are down here behind this pocket, and you got to spin both of those off. If you have your pillion seat, you're going to have to remove this and disconnect your pillion seat as well. And then your saddlebags are just these 2 crazy bolt-on clamps that snag everything. Rick Rack has that solution to get around this snagging. And then the left cover just pulls off. The left cover is just held on by 3 grommets, so we'll just give it a tug along the bottom, and that cover will come off. We'll disconnect the bike from the tender. And if you watch my setup video, you found that I can store this up underneath here where the old spark plug wire clamp was. Nicely out of place. Next, we need to pull the main fuse, which is underneath this cap right there. Make sure you have your key fob present. Turn the ignition on. Once you hear the beep and it boots, you can pull this fuse and the bike will go off. At this point, you can turn your ignition off so that when you put it back in, it won't boot up all the way. This is a very important step. If you start messing with the battery and have the main fuse connected, you can lock out your BCM and you'll be taking your bike to the dealer. All right, so our battery is underneath all of this stuff. So this is our BCM and this is our top caddy. So we have this connector here, which is all the rear lighting, our heated gear, our parts and accessory connector, and then this is the security key fob antenna actually. So this is what reads your key fob. So that's why people like to set it on the seat when they want to keep it disarmed because it's closed. So we're going to remove these cables and then this tray will come off, exposing the BCM. So we'll press the tab here and simply slide this out. So there's all your rear lighting. This is zip tied to the caddy, so we'll just leave that for now. Now these are slid on. Your P&A and your security antenna are slid on there. I found if you lift up on them, so stick your finger underneath the front of them and then push forward and they'll come off pretty easy. If you don't lift up, you'll be fighting these. They just don't want to slide out. So that's loose. We'll lift up here with my finger, push forward, and the security pops out. So these are loose now. We have our heated gear, which people say these aren't long enough. I don't know, it looks like they would get out underneath the seat. I've never had heated gear, so I don't know, but I've heard these aren't long enough, and I've also heard they're not powered. Not sure, but these just pull out. We'll pull those out of the way, and then this tray has one clip over here. It'll be very obvious. You're just going to push the one clip in with your finger, and then this guy's going to slide completely out. And there's the zip tie to that cable, so we'll just pull it to the side. All right, this exposes the BCM underneath. These are the 3 cables to the BCM. I'm not going to remove these. I really want to leave those connected. So that leaves us a tab over here. So we'll push that in, and then the ECM should slide towards the front of the bike. And there we go. So it popped loose. We'll just wiggle it out, and here's your BCM module. So we're just going to pull that up a little bit and then pull it over to the side. And that exposes its tray and the battery terminals. The one battery, the positive, is covered. That's why you have to remove this tray. So we have this screw right here, and this will come out. Again, be careful of your terminals. You're using a tool. You don't want to ever drop a tool across these terminals. You'll get a shocking surprise. So there's our T27 with its washer. And then the BCM caddy will just slide out. So with our battery terminals exposed, we can do a voltage test. So we'll set our voltmeter to volts DC, and we'll take the negative lead to the negative terminal and the positive lead to the positive terminal, and you can see we're getting 12.74. So that aligns with a fully charged battery, which makes sense. Since the battery was just on the tender, we know the battery is holding that full charge, which is good. Another test you can perform on your battery is a load test. Harley has the technician remove the battery and hook it up to their external load tester. They test it at 50% of the cold cranking amps and then 100%. I have this old tester that I've been using for years. I use it on my car batteries to determine if it'll make it through the winter. It served me well. So we've got the negative connected. We'll connect the positive. You want a solid connection on the terminal for this device to work. And you can show here it's showing 12.82 volts, so a little higher than our voltmeter was reading. We'll press enter, and we're going to do a battery test, so we'll press enter. And then on the back, they tell you what codes line up with what type of battery. This is a standard AGM battery. So this is the correct code, so we'll press enter. Then it wants to know what's the cold cranking amps of the battery. In the manual, it's showing 400. So we'll set that to 400. We'll press enter, and you can see we're getting 487, which is good, so it shows green. So in theory, this is a healthy battery. Our terminal bolts are 10 millimeter. So I have a 10 millimeter with a medium extension. We're going to 60 to 70 inch-pounds. You're welcome to get your torque wrench out, but I'm going to do it by the human torque. And you can see that is pretty loose. Look at that. It just spins very loosely. It's not snug at all. That ground is completely loose. Completely loose. And there we go. So we're not going to put any real torque on this. You do not want to strip these terminals out. But man, you could see how loose that one was. Let's check the positive. And the positive is tight. So that's really good right there. That's got some torque on it. This is why this check is so important. So with both terminals secure, you can apply some petroleum jelly or dielectric grease to these terminals to protect them from corrosion. So just like with Loctite, you don't need to over apply this, but you want to put some around these connectors and then just rub it around with your finger, and it just prevents corrosion. So if it should get a little moisture on it, this grease will help it from creating a problem. This is also a good practice for your car. I will put links in the description for everything that I use. These are Amazon affiliate links. I appreciate if you purchase through those links. Costs you nothing, but I get a small commission, which does help out. Next, we'll put our BCM tray in. It has this screw connection right here. We'll just do that by finger tight. These two connectors go underneath, this one on top. So we'll wiggle this back in. So this tab goes right here on top, and then this screw bolts in right there. We're going to do that finger tight. I wanted to call out too, there's a little strap here. If you need to remove the battery, you pull that strap to get the battery out because it's very heavy. If you get a lithium battery, you don't have to worry about the weight. So we'll put this screw in, and then I'm just going to do finger tight here. There we go, there's our tray. Now the BCM is going to snap back into this tray. So we're going to wiggle that back into place. Just be careful and take your time. It's clipping into that tray along the top and along the bottom. And then we're just going to push down and this clip will grab it. And our BCM is now back in place, just checking these cables are all tight. So now we'll reattach our top caddy. This back piece here is going to slip under that clip that's holding the BCM. And then there's one clip here that this will grab. So we'll slide that underneath these two tabs and then push down to snap it in. So that's secure. We'll reattach our rear light cables. So we're going to slide our PNA connector back on and our security antenna back on. We'll start with the PNA, and you're going to slide until it grabs. And then the same thing with the antenna. Start towards the front and then push back until you feel it grab. So both of those are now secure. And then we have our heated gear. We'll pop these both back in place. Make sure all the cables are routed as you found them. Always a good idea to take a picture before you start, which I did not, but this matches the service manual. So that completes that. With all of our cables reconnected, we can now put the main fuse back in, and the ignition off, we'll reattach our main fuse. You'll hear the security system alarm, and the lights will blink, so power is now restored to the bike. We'll put our cap back on. The cover will go back on, the seat will go back on, and your saddlebag will go back on. When you reconnect your saddlebag, don't forget to connect the speaker cable. So there you have it, checking your battery's health and the tightness of those terminal connections. So important. I cannot believe just how loose that ground cable was. So if you've been following me, you know I've had the starting issue twice, which many of us are seeing on the 23 CVOs. So I did get the BCM and ECM update and not had the issue since. But with that loose ground cable, I wouldn't be surprised if that's not part of the issue. It just shows how important it is to check the tightness of your terminal cables on your battery frequently. I hope you found this useful, and if you did, you'll share it with someone else. But until next time, in the Friction Zone.